Good morning, everyone. It's an honor and privilege to come and be part of this conference and present about Microsoft Business Intelligence. Before we start, I want to take a few minutes. So if you can take, any of you have Twitter accounts? Okay. Can you just tweet any of these words directly there? Just take a few minutes and then okay. So the reason I was asking you to tweet, hopefully the tweets are coming through, with the world changing with so much amount of data and companies wanting to go and look at how are customers talking about their products, what are any new products that have been launched, how are customers talking about any feedback in terms of any launch of the new products or any existing products which they might be using. So it's very, very important for companies and businesses to go and find out how can I improve the business, right? So looking at the data and then improving the business. So one of the key things with respect to democratizing BI, what Microsoft has done in the last year is essentially launch what we call as Power BI. So the Microsoft Business Intelligence stack is quite a lot with respect to Excel, on-premise BI, and Power BI. I wanted to start with a quick demo of Power BI, and then we'll get into the actual presentation. Okay. So what you tweeted, hopefully this comes up. So this is essentially a dashboard as part using Power BI. This is a dashboard which has been created, and so I don't know whether any of you who tweeted are here. Anyone, any tweets you can see? Okay. So you can see that this is essentially looking at Twitter feed, getting the data, immediately finding out where you are, and actually analyzing the data and actually landing into Power BI within a few minutes, right? So essentially, in order for you to improve your business and company and products, this is a great way for customers to actually benefit and look at the data in terms of social analytics. How are customers speaking about my data? Now, this dashboard is essentially built in Power BI, which I'll get into details more. But once you prepare this, it's very, very simple. You can share it to the end users who can come and ask, okay, what are the total tweets, and it comes up with the value of total tweets here, and I can just say by hashtag, and the visualization automatically changes. You don't have to understand the data and change the visual and create a report. It automatically understands what you're asking about, finds what is the right visual, and I can even say because it understands where you're tweeting from, you can understand where is it coming from. It looks at the data or in the last hour, right? So it's very, very simple way for end users to actually come and ask questions about the data rather than going and creating complex reports and then analyzing it and everything. It's a very, very simple way. So this is one of the things which we launched last year, what we call as Power BI. But before that, I'll go into the actual presentation, get into the details. So I'm going to be talking about Microsoft Business Intelligence as a whole. And this is includes Microsoft Business Intelligence includes like Excel, on-premise BI, as well as Power BI. How many of you are using Excel? Or used Excel, right? So almost everyone in the world uses. How many of you use on-premise BI or SQL Server BI? Right? Quite a lot of you, analysis services and reporting services and everything, people are using it. And then, how many of you heard or using Power BI? Okay, quite a lot of people. Okay, that's a lot of people using Power BI. That's great. So my name is Siva. I'm part of the product team from the Power BI product team. So I've been in the BI team for 14 years. Joined initially as part of analysis services, been in the reporting services, now in part of Power BI. I'm also joined by Romy. She's a program manager from Power BI team as well, from the mobile team. She's from Israel. So we'll be presenting about our vision in terms of Microsoft BI, what we think how the Microsoft BI helps customers. This is just to give you a quick taste in terms of demo, in terms of how things are overall. Okay. So I'll give a quick overview of Microsoft BI and what are we working on right now and what is our longer term vision. And a quick feedback in terms of industry feedback, how industry has reacted with respect to Microsoft BI, where does it stand in the overall industry. High level overview of what is available in SQL Server 2016. How many of you are using SQL 2016? Okay, so some of you are using, and how many of you are using SQL 2012, 2014? Okay, quite a lot of people. Okay, and a lot of you were asking about in terms of probably here as well as around the world in terms of like did Microsoft not invest in on-premise BI? We've not seen significant changes from SQL 2012. So a lot of the things, I'll get into a little bit of the details in terms of that, and then what we have enhanced in terms of SQL 2016. And then what we launched last year is Power BI, which is a cloud-based software analytics tool, which is essentially for creating live dashboards, what you saw in there initially, like with the Twitter feed. Creating these dashboards, being able to monitor your business, take intelligent actions based on what the data is telling you. Okay, and then we'll just do demos in terms of the various products, very high-level demos, and then probably the other sessions which are there will cover more details, and then we'll try to leave some time for Q&A. Okay. So when you talk about Microsoft Business BI reporting, so essentially we have a set of tools, and how we see this as various people based on, this is all based on feedback which we have heard from customers. So we have various tools to create reports. So if you look at it, you have Excel. Obviously, everyone uses Excel in terms of creating pivot tables, pivot charts, and everything. So that's one of the popular one which people create in terms of creating tool. So what we introduced is Power BI Desktop, which is an interactive reporting tool. I'll show some demo of this today. And in the bottom you see a lot of these are available as part of SQL 2016 in terms of you can author mobile reports, you can author paginated reports. If you are actually using SQL Server reporting services, you might be familiar. You can create paginated reports using Report Builder or using SQL Server data tools. Okay. So now once you create this, now where do you go and publish it and manage it so that you can other people can actually consume it? So this is where we have on the cloud we have Power BI. If you're using on the cloud, you can use Power BI. You can take your Excel reports and Power BI desktop reports and publish it in the top. That's where you have Power BI. And then in the bottom, what you have is reporting services. This is all on-premise. Here, and you can take any of the reports which you have authored here and you can publish into on-premise in terms of reporting services. So once you publish this, you can also pin any visuals which are there in the reporting services. You can pin these into your Power BI as well. And then for your end customers, they can actually consume this in various forms, right? So if you're using Power BI, essentially go to a web portal and then they can actually consume all of the reports. They have one single set of apps, mobile apps. We provide it on all the platforms in terms of iOS, Android, and Windows. One set of mobile apps which can actually connect to the cloud or on-premise. And depending on the customer's need, we want you to leverage either the on-premise or the cloud, depending on whatever your needs are. We want you to make use of the entire Microsoft stack. Okay. So I'm going to quickly walk through what are the key advantages in terms of this. So first, obviously, if you're using Excel, it's very, very simple in terms of simple data discovery. You can use Excel, get in the data, essentially in terms of Power Query and Power Pivot, you can analyze the data and create some simple reports. If you want to be more in terms of interactive and getting some insights, what you see is in terms of analysis quickly. This is where you get into Power BI and you can do Q&A, what I did in terms of asking questions overall, in terms of coming and asking total number of tweets by hashtag, by from Switzerland. So those are all called natural language. We are actually parsing the natural language and what you're typing and then providing the right answers. That's what we're calling as Q&A. This is essentially being able to share some dashboards to your end users. They can come and ask questions and get insights. And then here, in terms of your data can be in terms of on-premise or on the cloud. You can actually set up refreshes so that all your dashboards which you create are automatically showing the latest data, and or you can actually have it interactive as well, right? So that you have the latest data in your backend in analysis services or SQL Server or SQL Azure, and your data is already interactive. You can come to the dashboard, it's always live data. So that's why we are calling it as like interactive query mode or in the data refresh mode. Depending on your needs, you can actually prepare what dashboards you need. And finally, after you do this, if you see you're monitoring your data, and I want to get some additional insights. So this is where I want to, once I find that my sales has dipped, right, as an example, sales has dipped. Now, what are the reasons why it dipped? I can actually go into, drill into reports, understand the data a little bit more, and what actions do I need to take as a salesperson or marketing person of a particular company, okay? So, the Power BI team, essentially, in terms of, I would say, about a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, in terms of, we started working on what you currently see as Power BI. We started working about approximately 2 years ago. And one of the key missions was we wanted to make sure that this is available in the cloud initially. We can actually do it at a faster cadence. We can deliver a lot of features very, very fast. That was the overall intent and mission. We wanted to drive value for the end users and customers. So we've been starting to deliver a lot of features since we launched a public preview on December 18th of 2014. Since then, we've been constantly releasing features almost every week. When I say, so in the Power BI consists of various things in terms of Power BI service, desktop, and other components, which I'll get into a little bit later. We've been delivering features into the service every single week since we launched in December 2014. And since then, we've been, how many of you are watching the blog posts and the features that are getting released? Okay, few of you. So, one of the things which what we have heard is like on one set of people who are like super happy with respect to the features that have been released. One set of people, like, they're not even able to keep up with the features because there's so many features that are coming up. In terms of including PMs within the team, they are not able to keep up because there are so many features getting released from the product team. So not only that, in terms of Power BI and releasing all of the features, all of the optimizations, any key innovations we have done in the cloud, all of those were also brought into SQL Server 2016. So significant perf improvements, for example, with analysis services, what you see essentially has come into SQL 2016. All of the performance optimizations we have done in the cloud has come in. Several functionality in terms of modeling functionality in Tabular that have been done, those have also come into SQL Server 2016. So it's a combination of we're delivering first in the cloud, getting feedback, and then we're also adding this value to the enterprise customers if they want to utilize on-premise as well. So you can use it either way into either of the locations. Okay. So getting into what is industry talking about in terms of Microsoft BI. So this was, Power BI was officially made as a general availability on July 24th of last year. It's less than a year since it was launched. And this was the first report in terms of Forrester Wave. On the x-axis, you see in terms of the overall strategy, and you have the current offering in terms of what the offering is. So they were evaluating Microsoft as compared to all the other vendors in terms of business intelligence space. So if you look at it, where you can see where Microsoft is in the top right corner, it's better to be in the top right corner in terms of the overall strategy and what is the current offering from the company, right? Then this was just 3 months after the initial launch. This includes all of the suites. Then in December 31st of last year, PC Magazine went and evaluated all of the self-service business intelligence tools. So you can see this is, I've just clipped it just for this particular screen. They've evaluated a lot more self-service business intelligence tool. And you can see Microsoft Power BI in the first one. And you can see that they rated us as one of the editors award overall when they evaluated all of the self-service BI tools last year. And most recently, in terms of Gartner Magic Quadrant, how many of you follow Gartner Magic Quadrant? Okay, several of you follow. So this is one of the things in the industry, a lot of them follow Gartner's Magic Quadrant. This is to evaluate various segments or areas. So in the BI space, essentially what you see is it's better to be in the leaders quadrant in terms of overall, in terms of the overall completeness of the vision, as well as ability to execute. You can see Microsoft is further right, and all of this is based on how we've been executing and delivering on Power BI and integration along with Office, with Excel, and how this makes it much more better offering for all of the customers. In addition to that, you also have all of the value proposition for enterprise customers using analysis services and reporting services, which are getting delivered in SQL 2016. Okay. Now, so we delivered a lot in terms of SQL 2012 as a key functionality in SQL Server. And then after that, we've been working on the cloud to make sure that we innovate and being able to provide this offering. So we heard a lot of complaints in terms of from the customers asking, okay, are you going to be working on features with respect to the next version of SQL Server, and what are you going to be doing and achieving? So we started working on, we intentionally focused a lot of our energy on Power BI and making that available on the cloud as an initial offering. And this is all aligned with overall strategy from our CEO in terms of cloud first. And after we made all of these initial investments, then we started working on the features with respect to SQL Server on-premise. And as part of that, so this is where we have this internally, we had this slide in terms of boxes back. The box here essentially means SQL Server, which is essentially typically has been packaged as a box product. So that's what this means in terms of overall SQL Server, as well as in terms of whatever offering which we have on the cloud. These two together make a better offering for customers. They can have hybrid connectivity. If they want, they can have hybrid connectivity. If they want complete on-premise, they can still have on-premise. If they want completely on-cloud, they can have on-cloud as well. Right? So it's totally dependent on the customer's need. Now looking at SQL 2016, so essentially you have, if you take at SQL 2016 with respect to BI, so you have the modeling environment. We have several enhancements which have been made in analysis services tabular, analysis services multidimensional. These are the two analysis services options which you have. We made enhancements in those in terms of SQL 2016. In addition to that, you have the visualization layer where you have reporting services. You can author your reports as paginated reports or mobile reports, and you can prepare these and you can publish this so that your end customers can actually utilize it. And then finally, you can also pin report visuals into Power BI, and you also have hybrid connectivity which we have offer. With the help of gateways, we have hybrid connectivity that can be offered here as well. Okay. So you heard a little bit in terms of data is constantly growing overall. So essentially you have your customers on one side and you have the business on the other side, right? So data is constantly growing. You're collecting data. You want to be able to transform your products overall in terms of making better products so that you can provide more value for your customers. And in order to do that, you need to engage with the customers and also effectively run your business. So in order to achieve this, typically what companies do is they look at the data overall, and they provide certain reports for the people who are actually analyzing the data, right? And in order to do this, if you take a look at like about 20 years ago, so this is the first wave, what we call as the first wave is corporate BI. So this is where the IT department is there. They're actually preparing all of the reports. From Microsoft perspective, you had SQL Server, analysis services, and reporting services. IT is deploying these, preparing these reports in a company. The HR team or a finance team or the sales team, they go to the IT department and say, we want these reports. They actually go and prepare these reports and provide them. Now, what we heard from them as part of it was we are bottlenecked on IT because IT has a certain number of capacity and they're not able to prepare additional changes or modifications. If there are multiple teams coming and asking, they're prioritizing these things, and I'm not getting my reports. Now, that's what led to companies doing self-service BI as a second step. So in terms of self-service BI, the goal was I don't want to be, IT is already providing a certain set of standardized reports. I still want to leverage them. But for my ad hoc analysis, in terms of initially, I don't want to be completely dependent on IT. I don't want to wait for weeks. I want to be able to, weeks or months, I want to be able to do quick analysis. How can I go and prepare these reports? So this is where Microsoft launched self-service BI with Power Pivot initially. This was in 2010. We launched Power Pivot, and following that we had like Power Query and Power View as well, so that you can do self-service BI. And instead of IT department providing, now we have enabled a lot of what we call as power users who are actually being able to create the reports and leverage it and use it. Right? So that's what this indicates in terms of the second wave in terms of self-service BI. Now you reach much more larger audience. Now, we are calling the third wave as end-user BI. So what do we mean by end-user BI? So we want to be able to reach to a much larger audience very, very quickly. So if you take Power BI, still IT can leverage it. They can prepare reports and publish it to their end users. Self-service BI, analysts can also prepare these reports and dashboards and share it to the end users. But end users, essentially, more and more you see a lot of data being on the cloud. Right, so you take Salesforce or Marketo or Google Analytics, you have a lot more data on the cloud. You just have a simple login and password. So one of the key missions when we started Power BI was we wanted to make sure that how can we prepare these reports? We know already what is the data, what is the schema, and we want to be able to create these reports closely working with the individual software as a service providers, and that's what we introduced with what we call as software as a service content packs. So I'll show a quick demo of that, what I mean by that. So this is essentially pre-packaged templates where you as a user go into Power BI, enter your Google Analytics login and password. Automatically within a few minutes you get a dashboard and report. Then you can actually quickly go and analyze it. Right? So that's what we call as end-user BI here. So Microsoft provides an entire complete solution with this. So if you want, from a customer perspective, if you're looking at, I want to be completely on-premise, here you have the entire stack with respect to on-premise. In terms of modeling, you have analysis services. You can actually create your data model. I work with a lot of enterprise customers closely, and they say that I want to be able to have a semantic model where the business users are connecting to that and getting value and creating reports from that centralized model. So that's where analysis services comes into play in terms of being able to prepare the data model. Now, if you want to analyze an author, then you have these tools in terms of on-premise with Excel, Power BI, Report Builder, or Data and Publisher is essentially the mobile BI reports. That's where that comes in. And then for delivery in terms of creating reporting services reports and being able to prepare this. So in the top portion here, what you see here is all of this modeling, analyzing, and then delivering. All of this can be done in Power BI. So if you want to be using the cloud infrastructure and using it, you can actually use Power BI on the top. At the end of, finally after these, you have your end users consuming it. They can actually consume in a mobile device. We have optimized mobile devices, which Romy will show a little bit later as demos. And then you also have the web, where you can directly go into the web browser, any of the modern browsers, and directly log in and view them, as well as you can embed these into your apps. Right? If you're providing an in-app experience for your end users, you can actually embed these reports and visuals into your app as well. Okay? So now let's take a look at what are the key investments which we made in the bottom portion of it. This is the Power BI, this is the on-premise BI here. So here in the on-premise BI, so you have, this is part of SQL 2016. So you have modern reports in terms of, this is the, when I say modern reports, so if you look at a lot of the SQL Server reporting services reports. So at that time when we initially created this was in SQL Reporting Services 2000. It was quite modern at the time when we created and provided the templates and all of the formats and everything. With the changing world in terms of various new modern things, we had to modernize these reports. We just had to make few changes in order to make sure this is aligned with the modern theme and formats. And that's where all of the reports which you create right now in reporting services are what we call as modern reports. Then you have the mobile reports. DataZen was an acquisition by Microsoft last year, and we've integrated all of the DataZen technology for authoring mobile reports. You can author your mobile reports. This is primarily optimized for mobile. You can publish into reporting services on-prem, and then you can actually consume using the Power BI mobile app as a single app which you can consume. Enhanced analytics. So this is where we invested in with respect to analysis services, enhanced additional modeling in tabular, additional performance and enhancements primarily for multidimensional. That's where the enhanced analysis comes into play with respect to analysis services here. So rich tools. So this is what we talked about was primarily if you took analysis services tabular, we heard from the customers in terms of all of this, in terms of metadata management of all of the data model and everything, and scripting this is quite complex. So here we made enhancements to make it simpler and easier so that you can script the data model and manage it easily. And hybrid BI, this is essentially the gateways. So how many of you use the gateways? Okay, few of you use the gateways. So if you want a hybrid connectivity from cloud to on-premise, this is where the gateways come into picture. If you're using Power BI dashboards, you want to keep them refreshed, then you can set up a personal gateway or enterprise gateway. You can prepare this, schedule the refresh, or you can also have direct connectivity to your on-premise data, SQL Server or analysis services in a live mode. And finally, integration with SharePoint as well. Okay. So now, specifically for reporting services, the three major topics which we invested in is essentially paginated reports, making these documents look very, very good. You had the mobile reports in terms of authoring the mobile reports and publishing into reporting services, and a new web portal that can consume all of these report types. Okay. So I'll do a quick demo of reporting services just to show what we have. So this is the, if you've installed and tried reporting services, this is the SQL 2016 reporting services portal. So in the top you have, obviously you can create folders for various teams and give permissions and everything. You have the KPIs, which these are the key indicators which I want to monitor every day when I come to this particular portal. I want to be able to monitor how is the key performance indicators here. And you can actually select certain visuals and add it to the key performance indicator. Here you have initially the mobile reports. This is where authoring mobile reports using the mobile publisher. You have the paginated reports, and you also have a way to store. Power BI desktop reports, Excel reports, and then you have a data sets which you're probably familiar. If you're using reporting services, you're probably familiar with. I can create a data set and utilize the data set in multiple reports. So let's drill into one of the mobile reports. So this is essentially how a mobile report looks. You can author these mobile reports using the publisher, and then you publish into the reporting services portal. And the users can come in and select and interact with this. So if I want to look at this specific year, it actually, and I can select specific ranges of dates. And these are interactive, and not only on the web, but also on the mobile, you can actually see this experience as well, so that you can actually get insights on your data. Okay. I'm going to go back to home here, and then show another example of a paginated report. So if this is an example of a paginated report, this is what we called out as like making it modern. So if you look at the themes and how it is being laid out, the default colors and everything, it's more of a modern look. So these are some of the enhancements which we made so that it's much more professional looking in terms of all of the modern technology overall here. Okay, so this is the this reporting services report. Obviously, you can have drop-down filters and everything in terms of parameters and everything. And here you see this icon in terms of Power BI. You can actually take a specific visual and actually pin it to Power BI dashboard as well, if you need to. I'm going to switch back and. So now getting into analysis services. So we made some key investments. So one is essentially the tabular model. Some of the customers were asking for about overall, I want to be able to do translation so that I can provide different languages. Translation is one of the features which they did. Performance optimizations in terms of parallel processing. So if I have a table, I want to be able to do parallel processing of the multiple partitions within the table. Those are enhancements which we did. In addition to that, you had a lot of modeling enhancements which we have done as part of analysis services in terms of tabular. And then in a multidimensional also, we did a lot of performance enhancements here in terms of multidimensional analysis. How many of you use multidimensional? Okay, so a few of you are using. So you will see certain performance enhancements which we have made. So the team is investing both in analysis services, tabular and multidimensional overall, so that depending on what the features and capabilities and requests coming from customers, we are investing in both of the technologies. And then making it more in terms of direct query. So this is one of the key features a lot of the customers were asking. A lot of the relational databases are becoming faster and faster, and can we provide, get direct query capability and making it faster, and can I add row-level security on top of this? All of these enhancements with respect to analysis services, they've been made as part of SQL 2016. And in the context of manageability, in terms of being able to do JSON format, so that it's much more easier, rather than, how many of you use XMLA? Have I heard some of you? Okay. So instead of using XMLA as a way to script out and actually manage your data model in terms of processing it or modifying the data model, we have made it much more easier and simpler in terms of managing. So this is what you saw in the bottom box for on-premise. You can use SQL Server 2016 in terms of analysis services and reporting services for your organization. Now coming to the top box in terms of Power BI. So Power BI essentially allows you to author interactive reports, and you can actually pull in data from Microsoft Cloud, non-Microsoft Cloud, or on-premise, and you can actually create rich dashboards which are live and operational dashboards like this, where your end users can consume using a web portal, or essentially you can embed these visuals or reports in your own application or in your mobile app, right? So any of this can be done. Since our launch, this was like less than a year ago, we currently have like more than 5 million members, over 200 plus countries, and then 200 plus unique companies as well, right, who are using Power BI at this time, right? So it's one of the fastest growing BI solutions in terms of rapid adoption, I would say, in terms of across the globe. Okay. So Power BI has 4 key products. So this is the first product is the Power BI Desktop. This is a freely downloadable report authoring tool, essentially for creating interactive reports. So how many of you use Power View? Okay. So some of you use Power View. So, so if you look at from Microsoft perspective, we had like Power Query, Power Pivot, and Power View. We've taken all of these technologies and made sure this is like much more simpler and easier and integrated experience. That's what we are providing as part of Power BI Desktop. So it's simple, easy, and you can download, and we have added, you can connect to a wide variety of data sources, being able to pull the data, mash it up together with additional data sources, or you can actually do direct query connectivity to your SQL Server or Oracle or SAP HANA. Any of this, you can actually do direct query. We specifically work for each of these providers to make sure the performance optimizations are done so that it's much more interactive end-to-end. Okay? So that's a pre-downloadable tool. One of the key value propositions as part of this, as compared to other competitors overall, the visualization, we see the visualization aspects of it in terms of like bar chart and column charts and everything. We have completely made this available as open source in terms of D3.js. So we put the entire code related to visualizations on GitHub so that any of the customers can actually pick up and use it. In addition to that, we're encouraging the community and developers to build what we call as custom visuals. Essentially, using D3.js, if you're familiar with it, you can build a new custom visual and integrate it into Power BI. Specifically for your organization. I've seen some amazing custom visuals from some of the customers, specifically targeting for their industry. They're building their own custom visuals. There are a lot of developers and community members also who are publishing custom visuals as well, which you can actually leverage. Okay? So you can actually bring in those custom visuals into Power BI Desktop. Once you author these reports, you can actually upload these reports into powerbi.com. This is the web service. And this is where you can just sign up for the powerbi.com using your organizational email address, and you can actually create dashboards. There is an automatic way of creating dashboards if your data is in any of the cloud providers, which we integrate with. So we've been preparing like one a week in terms of what we call a software as a service content pack for the last 50 plus weeks. We've been delivering one per week, closely working with each of the providers. This is, you will create these live dashboards, you set up the data refreshes, the dashboards are always live. So if you go into where I come from Redmond, in a lot of the buildings, we actually have monitors with the dashboards hanging. Primarily, all of the team is actually looking at service metrics in terms of various services, and automatically live data in terms of, so that they get the instant up-to-date data, how are customers using the product, are there any issues in terms of reliability, and how quickly can we react and actually improve the customer experience, right? So that's what we constantly look at. And no one touches these. It's essentially on the hallways, and the dashboards get automatically updated. So you have the mobile apps. Top right is the mobile apps here, and it's on all the 3 platforms, and you can actually connect to Power BI or to reporting services to view your dashboards. Finally, you have the developers. So Power BI for developers, we have like a few key mechanisms. One is you have what we have launched is Power BI Embedded. For ISVs, if they want to take Power BI and integrate into their own apps, they can actually do this using Power BI. Power BI Embedded is an offering specifically which we have launched. And then you have REST APIs for developers, which you can also programmatically interface with Power BI. Okay. So I'm going to start with a few things. First, I'm going to show the Power BI desktop. So once you download and install Power BI desktop, you will be prompted with something like this. So essentially, you have an initial launch screen, you have some initial videos, you can directly go to the blog posts, tutorials. We have a lot of content for people to actually get trained on terms of overall Power BI. So you can actually go and get these. So after you prepare these, I'm going to switch over to another one. So this is the overall canvas in terms of Power BI. So you have this is the reporting canvas where you can drag and drop and create reports and everything. So the first and foremost operation which people do is obviously go and get data. So here if you look at for the hope people in the back can see. So we have a wide variety of support for data sources, more than 50 plus sources by which you can natively connect to these data sources. And essentially, you can connect to these data sources, anything in terms of on-premise or in the cloud or Azure sources. And this is primarily, you can connect to pull the data directly into Power BI Desktop where you're loading the data, or you can actually connect in the direct query mode for some of the sources as well, right? So you have both these options. In this spreadsheet, I've actually imported some data. So here, once you connect to these sources, you will land into the screen something like this, where I'm going to. So typically, when you land into the data, so you might have this data. So here in this example, what I'm showing here, I have imported a set of CSV files, right? I have a set of sales information, various countries. These are in various CSV files. I'm pulling in these CSV files and now mashing up together to prepare a dashboard, looking at company sales and how is the company doing as compared to the competitors. That's what I'm looking at in this one. So here you see a sales information in a CSV format. And once you load this, you see that the first row is automatically the title of the overall tables, the title of the columns here. And I have various transforms which I can apply here. So what you see is essentially here operations in terms of what you can apply, like very, very simple to use operations. You can use select and say the first row as headers. So like this, we have a various wide variety of operations in terms of specifically if you have a date field, I can go and select a year. I don't need to write additional calculations. I can do simple operations directly with the UI. Behind the scenes, it uses something called as M language, which is very, very powerful. If you're familiar with M, you can actually go and write the M language to do any kind of operations. But this is primarily for data shaping and data preparation. I'm getting my data, how do I go and shape the data? So here it operates on a subset of the data. So, and here once you operate on this, I can also see what are the operations I've done. I've promoted my headers, I've changed the data type. So for example here, if you see this here, so initially you see that this particular column essentially is as a text type, right? You see essentially the column is a text type here. The first column is a text type, and I can actually select this and actually change any of the data types here, right? Even if it's importing incorrectly, I can change the data type. I've changed the data type here, and I'm appending additional queries. These are operations which you are appending for one by one, and you can actually go and see what are these operations, how they've been done. Once you've done all of these operations, you can actually load the data. In this example, I've loaded the data here. Once I load the data, I actually get into these tables which have various columns. So these are the various tables and columns which I have. I can go into what we call as the data view. So this is where I can go and analyze what amount of data that I've loaded here, how much is this. And so for example, this is the sales table here. And when I select the sales table here, you can see in this particular example, I've loaded 11 million rows, right? So this is 11 million rows, which I've loaded into Power BI Desktop. We use a compression technology in terms of overall column-oriented storage compression. So this actually compresses the data quite a bit. Overall, this file is very, very small, which can be uploaded to Power BI service. And then you can also set up relationships here. If you look at it, you can set up relationships. I can see what are the various relationships. It's essentially easy drag and drop, very easy to follow in terms of these are relationship between manufacturer ID between these two tables, how the relationship is. I can set up all of these here. And then I can actually go and author reports. So here I essentially can drag and drop. So for example, if I want to look at revenue information, and I want to be able to look at based on the various states here. Right, and I can actually change these visuals. By default, it provides these visuals. I can actually change these into states here in terms of various sales information, revenue information for each of the states. So I've already, and you can do very, very complex modeling operations, and you have a lot of these visualizations and filtering operations. So I've created 3 report pages here. So this is essentially a report essentially showing this is a company called Van Arsdale, essentially looking at the sales, and I can actually go and interact with it right now to see various segments, right? So right now it's actually operating on 11 million rows, and you can see the interactivity and the performance, how fast it is. Even loading the 11 million rows, it takes about like 80 seconds or something like that, right? Very, very fast in terms of even loading so much amount of data. So this is complete interactivity in terms of overall. I can select this. I can interact with this to see the data, what is the various data here, or I can actually come back and highlight this so that these values automatically change. I can go and analyze this data. So essentially for an analyst who's pulling the data and going and integrating the data and they want to get insights, this is a great way for preparing these reports. We see the business analyst actually as a core persona who's actually using this Power BI Desktop tool. Okay. So once you prepare these, I have a few more pages which have been created here. And once you prepare this, this is where you will take these reports and take it into powerbi.com to publish these reports. Okay. So before I go into that, I want to finish off showing one more thing and then get into this. So this is I talked about custom visuals, a gallery of various custom visuals which the community and the developers have created. So this is all using D3JS, where it's actually you have a wide variety of custom visuals that have been published here by the community. And these are not owned by Microsoft, but we actually do some security checks and publish it. If there are any issues reported, we actually communicate back and closely work with the developers so that they can update it in terms of any quality issues. Okay. So you can actually go ahead and download these custom visuals. So for example, I can just click on it and I can download it. So I've actually downloaded a custom visual here. And here I can actually go and import a custom visual. I can select here and I can go and import a custom visual directly here inside the report. So once I've imported the custom visuals, so for example here, I have this line chart. So here I've imported a custom visual. This is something called as aquarium. Here I imported the custom visual. I've actually changed the custom visual. This is essentially prepared by one of the community members. This is essentially looking at the sales in terms of various months, and it's complete interactivity in terms of how they've just followed the interactions, and you can actually select for each of the months and what are the values, and you can think of creative ways in terms of how you can create custom visuals specifically for your organizational needs, right? So if you're a facility management company, you can actually look at the buildings and actually drill into which are the buildings which are meeting the quality codes or not, and then like you can provide complete interactivity. So this is essentially for providing you a way so that customers can leverage the custom visuals and build whatever they need for their company and organization. Okay. Then switching to the service. So when you log in into powerbi.com, after you sign up, you will log in into powerbi.com. This is where you will come into the get data page. in the interest of time, I'm going to reduce this. I'm going to cover this in another session later in the Power BI. I'm going to reduce the amount of time in terms of the demo here. So here I have services here. This is what I call as a software as a service content pack. We prepare pre-prepared published templates specifically for each of the SaaS providers. So here what you see is essentially these are each and every one of them as a SaaS provider. If your data is here, you can come in and enter your so we have around 56, I think, right now. So we've been delivering one every week for last 50 plus weeks. And here I'm going to, so if you click on any of these, for example, you can actually go and click on Get, and then it'll ask you to go and sign in. What I'm going to do here, I'm going to do on Bing, and I'm going to do a Get just to simulate how this looks like. So I'm going to type in. So this is a Bing content pack. So this is essentially creating it within a few minutes. It created a Bing content pack. This is essentially showing who is searching on Zurich right now, right? So this is essentially showing who are the people who are searching on Zurich on Bing, and giving you a statistics in terms of that, and from which countries are they searching from. Essentially, this darker color essentially means like a lot of them are searching for Zurich from the US, and any relevant articles in terms of which are relevant to Zurich, which is most recent articles, that's actually showing up here, right? So this is essentially very, very fast in terms of pre-prepared templates that create. So for example, for app figures, so this is essentially a pre-published dashboard which will get prepared just for your data, right? When you enter your credentials, you will see app figures is essentially this is an app figures dashboard that's created. You have a sales manager dashboard from Salesforce. So depending on, we have closely worked with each of these SaaS providers, understood what are the key metrics that customers look for and cater for, prepared the reports closely working with the SaaS provider. Now the SaaS providers are building this, but initially it was a close partnership with the SaaS provider and the Power BI team, building the right reports, right dashboards, so that everyone can take advantage of it, right? So once you prepare these dashboards and reports, you can actually go ahead and share these directly with a simple email address. You can share these. And one of the key integrations which we did is with Cortana integration, right? You can actually integrate all of this with Cortana. So if you actually have Cortana here, so for example, I have a dashboard that's shared to me. I can actually go and see employee profile. For example, if I want to check for Romy, so it'll come up for. So so this is a specific Power BI authored report which has been specifically optimized to show up in the Cortana card. It actually shows Romy who's here, who's a manager, where is she, which building she is in. Very, very simple. This is actually prepared by our human resources team. They actually prepared this dashboard and shared it, and you can actually go and download it and you can leverage it so that it's actually integrated with Cortana. So these are very, very simple ways. So it's not like you need to come to the dashboard to get value. If these dashboards are shared to you and you have Cortana signed in and it's enabled, your end users and business users can directly come and search for interesting information or facts directly in Cortana. They don't even have to come into the dashboard. Okay. So with that, I'm going to request Romy to come in and show a little bit about mobile.
Connect, and if not, I'm gonna do the old-fashioned cable way. So just a second. Okay. Okay, we're gonna go with the cable. So I'm gonna demo today the Power BI mobile app for the iPhone. A lot of eyebrows was raised the first time we launched the app because we are Microsoft and we are very committed to our product. But one of the things that we started with Power BI was, as Siva mentioned, enabling the data everywhere to everyone, and where our business users share today in the industry, that's most of the business analysts and users have iPhone and iOS devices. So we started with iOS, followed by Android and Windows app. So we have a full suite. So I'm just going to go, I already logged into my Power BI app. And right here I can see the list of dashboards. You can see that it's optimized for mobile, it's all touch enabled, so we don't just copy paste whatever we have on the service, we just really put on some thought on how this looks and feels. So here I can see all my dashboards and also all of my reports that I can share with and access all of my information. Of course, I can also search for stuff. You can see what I visited today. I was probably really active today and this week, and I can access it really quickly and find what I need. I'm going to go and open just a sales dashboard. It's very similar to what Siva showed. You can see that the layout here is some optimized we call it. Like this is one of the most mobile gestures, most common one. And you can see all the visualization were fit into this page. Some users feedback us and say, that's great, I love being able to browse, but sometimes I need to see the context of the dashboard, and that's why we introduced also the landscape mode, in which you can see the dashboard the same way as you would see it on the web, and you can of course pinch the zoom and build more. So, as Siva mentioned, besides this is Power BI content, all stored in the cloud. Besides that, we also have SSRS in here. What the thought that led us to this is that on mobile, you don't want to go and switch in between apps, and you want to have all your information in one place. And this is why we have here the ability to connect to SSRS. SQL Server 16, so here you can see the same KPIs that Siva has just shown at the top level with the, by the way, this weird currency market, the Israeli shekel, so sometimes it's optimized to what I built. You can also see here the mobile reports. They're fully interactive and optimized for mobile. So for example, if I nudge up like this, you can see it, and I can also filter the report by last year, this year. And all of this authoring for mobile has been done in the SQL Server 16 report tool. So going back to Power BI, this is my workspace. Let's open a report for a sales dashboard. All of the visuals here are fully interactive. I really like this one. The pie chart is very fun to just use it. From every tile I've got, I can open the report. Just in the top like this, and I can also share some of the mobile things that we see a lot of people do is that they look at something and they want to send it to a colleague, maybe to an employee, saying, hey, you should check this, something is wrong with this metric. So this is where annotate and share comes in. We just, with a click, take a picture, you can add a non-happy face to this drop this year, last year. And we can mark up like this, and then we can share it via any of the social app, mobile apps that you have, or even via email. So what we do here is we share a snapshot of the data with my not happy face, and of course linkage to the Power BI mobile and demo so you can continue. And I think let's do this. I think I don't want to take more of Siva's time. I'm going to be talking on mobile a little bit more when we take the next session. Also, as I said, I can open the reports. And you can see here that it's fully interactive as well. Just in a second when it loads. The same way that Siva showed, I can select, for example, one product category and it filters out everything. And I can pinch to zoom and see the tooltips and everything is really available on mobile. I think one of the coolest thing about this is that for Power BI I didn't do anything. I might just build the reports on the Power BI service and upload it to the Power BI service, and then they're available to me on the mobile, which is very powerful single point. Okay, so I've been signed off. If you have any questions following the session, I'll be around. And then let's see if I take it from here.
Thank you, Romy. So this is essentially just showing in terms of the pace of innovation. We've been delivering a lot of features overall. This is the last slide I have. It's mostly in terms of showing the list of features which have come in overall over a period of last year and a half. But primarily from Microsoft Business Intelligence perspective, we have Excel, we have on-premise BI, and we have Power BI. Depending on your needs, you can actually leverage all of these products. We encourage you to leverage all of these products. Depending on your needs, use on-premise BI or cloud or a hybrid, and leverage Microsoft BI for your needs. That's what I wanted to wrap it up. And then I'm happy to take questions after this.
Fox, thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you.